I'm not suggesting that coal plants don't have impacts. I am suggesting that we're doing our best to minimize those impacts and also meet our customers' growing demand for power. How many people have been to a coal plant? Toured a coal plant? Okay. I just drove by one today, the one in Asheville. It's a relatively small coal plant. The emissions are coming down as regulations tighten. We're happy to do that. We're doing that under unique regulatory frameworks, again, which we work with, and I'm not sure whether the Canary Coalition signed on to support the Clean Smokestacks Act, but the Sierra Club did.
We introduced it.
Well, okay. And our company's invested $1.9 billion to comply with that act, and we supported it throughout the legislative process and worked with our industrial customers to also support it. They were very standoffish to do that, and we worked with them to do that, and we were able to do that with a rate freeze. So, anyway, I'm not suggesting coal plants don't have impacts. Quarries have impacts. I'm trying to find gravel for the road that leads to my house now, and that's going to come from a quarry. I wish it didn't have to come from a quarry, but it does. So, in any event, I'm not suggesting that coal plants don't have impacts, but I am suggesting, by law, we're doing our best to minimize those impacts. And there are many byproducts. He speaks of horrific accidents at coal plants. That's too bad. These people need to operate effectively. I'm not defending folks who have operated outside the regulations. But the fly ash from coal plants is used for concrete construction. The bottom ash is used for cinder block. The gypsum, which comes from the scrubbers, is used for the wallboard that's in this room. So we're doing our best to recycle the impacts and the burning of coal as best we can.
All right. Mr. Williams, would you like to start your next point?
Well, just to continue on with a bit of the history on how we got here, and that's why I brought this map that shows the number of states and how much they're dependent on coal. The Carolinas are 61% dependent on coal. South Carolina is 40% dependent on coal. That's because many large nuclear stations are located there. The country as a whole is 50% dependent on coal. We have a long road to hoe to remove this dependence to address climate change. I'm not here to defend coal. I'm here to suggest the reality of what we have to deal with. We have been advocating at Duke Energy for mandatory controls on greenhouse gases since 2004. I spent the last 3 weeks in Washington, D.C. working with the media to ensure that we can get a cap on CO2 and do so in a way that doesn't overly harm our customers to transition out of this as best we can, similar to what was done with the Clean Air Act and sulfur dioxide. That was a phenomenal piece of legislation with the cap and trade approach. Some people may just have a different approach, but right now that's the approach that both Republicans and the Democrats are agreeing to for the most part in Congress. We'll see where it goes. The sooner we get a hard cap on carbon dioxide and climate change, the better off we'll be, and the sooner we can address this problem from a regulatory standpoint and make the investments. It will not be cheap. I've sat down with folks from a very large company in Charlotte who are about to make a $250 million investment in technology, and they're wondering what to install. And they yell at us. They get very upset when they see that we're advocating for climate change legislation. How many people have played baseball before? There's a play called a squeeze play, where you're in between the second and the first base, and running back and forth, and both guys are throwing the ball back and forth, and you're running one side and running to the other side. We have multiple groups we need to satisfy. Industrial groups often oppose our renewable initiatives based on the cost. So this is not a simple equation to deal with. And I'm proud of the power plant fleet we've developed here. I'm proud that Bill Lee pursued nuclear energy in the 60s and 70s, so our greenhouse gas emissions are lower than the Midwest and other areas while we still have a large industrial base. That kind of work is actually, we're living on those dividends today. Our rates are 30% below the national average in large part to the investments that were made then. Is it perfect? I think some people can find issue with that. I don't disagree with that, but we're doing our best. The area is growing. Many retirees are here, may have moved in from other areas. We're obligated by law to serve your homes that you're building. So and we're trying to do that as economically and as efficiently as possible. We're not perfect, I don't pretend we're perfect, but I also would appreciate some sense of the efforts and the achievements that have been made to get to the better place where we are today, but we certainly have a long way to go.
All right, Mr. Friedman, do you have a rebuttal to that statement? Or do you want to start the next point?
I think that Duke Energy does deserve credit for providing our power, and that's not an easy task to accomplish. I think that though we do have to understand that Duke Energy is primarily a corporation that exists for the purpose of making money for its shareholders. And so bottom line, Duke Energy makes decisions that are not necessarily in the public interest sometimes. And the problem is that Duke Energy has a tremendous amount of influence in this state, and their purpose is to look out for their shareholders rather than the public interest. You know, and we can't really blame Duke Energy for this. I think we have to blame the political system and the way it's run. But for instance, you know, Duke Energy's Political Action Committee and executives donated some $744,000 to state legislative races and the gubernatorial races. Governor Perdue received $26,000 from the Duke Energy Political Action Committee and from various executive campaign contributions. So to say that there's a neutral regulatory agency in North Carolina is really kind of naive. You know, Edward Finley, who heads the Utilities Commission, has been with a law firm that's worked with the utility industry for decades. And so yeah, the governor appoints members of the Division of Air Quality and DENR, but that's not to say that the fox is not